and Mark Stark live, okay, for episode number 3, okay, in the What Successful Agents Do in Times of Crisis, okay? So, Mark, get us started, please.
All right, I want to start today with start our broadcast today with a very strong and relevant message. Now, bear with me, because I have some notes here that I do want to follow. I'm going to talk in general about iBuyers and these other technology disruptors. All right. See, it's very interesting to me that these companies love to spend millions of dollars on TV ads and digital ads talking about how much they care, how much their focus is on communities, on families, on helping people, simply make their life easier, more simple, and less stressful. However, when the road gets a little tough, they clearly run for the hills and fold up shop. They cancel escrow commitments and leave buyers, sellers, families twisting in the wind. Now, I am not a professional marketer, but I thought I could help with them to maybe change their advertising so it's more real and more that it matches up with what they're doing, like this. How about lose my number? That might be a good ad for them. Or don't call us, we'll call you. How about families and communities should be seen but not heard? That's a good one. And last but not least, and again, like I said, I'm not a professional marketer about this. How about taking advantage of the consumer as our model and profiteering as our business? So, very disappointing. Now,
My personal favorite is Lose My Number, I have to say.
you like that one? Good. Okay. So what is the silver lining here, okay, in this first message? I'll tell you what the silver lining is. I want to take a moment and focus on the real heroes, okay, that their actions each and every day shows the love for their communities, and it shines through, okay, with all their selfless acts. Now, I apologize right up front if I miss anybody. I don't mean to do that. I know there's numerous people out there doing so much for the communities and families, but outwardly, I want to thank the entire medical community, all servers handling all our takeout business, all delivery people, all first responders, all charitable organizations, and I want to thank all the hard-working real estate agents. And I'm telling you, I'm not just speaking to the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services sales executives, I'm speaking to sales executives everywhere. Because the truth of it is you are always on the front line. Through good times, through bad times, through challenges, okay, you are there. You're there for families, you're there for communities, you're there each and every day, regardless of how hard it gets out there. And I want to personally thank you for all you do. It is truly amazing. Rick, anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, and we have agents out there too that are calling their sphere and delivering groceries to people that are elderly and so forth too. So all kinds of really good stuff. It's great to see people come together.
Yeah, so many of you, what you're helping with has nothing to do with real estate. It has to do just with helping people. And that is awesome. I am proud to call myself a realtor. And last but not least, again, I want to thank you for being there for the families, for the communities, and clients when they need you most. So thank you. All right.
That's like fiduciary responsibility times 10 right now.
Times 10. Times 10. All right. So now, let's switch subjects, and we're going to talk about some business aspects. We had a couple questions come in, and they were asking more about prospecting and getting more specific about the aspects of prospecting. So Rick and I thought it was a good idea to reiterate this message. First of all, do we prospect at this time? Yes, but we're calling it reverse prospecting. And truthfully, I have to tell you, though we're calling it reverse prospecting, it's really prospecting you should do forever. Because what the real message is all you're doing is reaching out to the people you know, to the clients you have, to the sphere that you have, reaching out to say this: how are you doing, and how can I help? That's it. That's it, and that's all you need to do. Here's what's coming back to me. How long these conversations are going. I'm hearing it from everyone saying, I've never had this in depth of a conversation with my sphere. You know why? Because they need you. All right? And now they have you to speak to. And you know what? You're not going to have all the answers, but you can certainly do some homework and get the information back to them. Sometimes they just need someone to talk to and throw out their ideas or their feelings. And thank you, okay, for doing that. So call it prospecting, call it whatever you want. Call it just checking in on people. Great. I don't care what you call it, but that's what you should be doing now. Reaching out to people and talking each and every day. And if those conversations are going long, no worries, you're doing it right.
And open-ended questions work then too. And you know what? It's like we talk about rapport in success series. This is rapport on steroids. Once you make that connection with somebody in a situation like this, you know, you have a client for life.
Yeah, and and to that aspect, I also am hearing agents talk about, okay, well, let's say I'm not as busy as I was. All right, guess what? That is a personal choice. So first of all, no worries. Here's some of the things, we want to share a couple things that you can be doing above and beyond just the core business. Of course you want to be as busy as possible, and I promise you, you will have clients with real estate needs. I want to give you a quick 30-second update on that, and then I want to go through some of the other things you should make sure you're doing above and beyond the core business of working with buyers and sellers. But I want to let you know this. First of all, inventories are moving up. All right, so we started with a very low inventory, and inventories are moving up. However, a percentage of that inventory, and what we're figuring, it can be as high as about 50% of the inventory, are sellers that are saying, right now, I don't want anyone showing my house. I just don't want them through the home. Guess what? That's their prerogative, and we have to respect those feelings. But what does that mean? That means anyone who's putting their house on the market right now, we went from low inventory, okay, to now taking 50% of that inventory being restrictive. My God, we are at the lowest inventory levels. I'm hearing conversations with sales executives, they're saying, I'm putting listings back on the market, and they're selling immediately. Because even though inventory is growing, there's part of that inventory, and like I said, up to 50% is restrictive and not being open to show. So if you do list your property now, that's a powerful, powerful opportunity. Rick, anything more on that?
Well, you're talking about buyers, because buyers, like if you're working with a buyer right now and they still want to buy, that's you know, you have a slight unfair advantage right now because a percentage of the market has gone away, you have less competition.
Yeah, and like I said, you're going to have buyers who are looking to buy right now and need to buy right now, just like sellers needing to sell. You're going to have sellers that don't want to sell right now. This is a gamut of different feelings. We're going to respect them all, be smart, and do our very best, okay, to service them and do it properly, always following the CDC rules, okay, and social distancing and making sure everyone is protected. All right, what should we be doing, all right, if we're not directly working with a client or we're a little bit slower than we'd like to be, all right? Well, here's some ideas. One, you have projects that you've been wanting to complete forever. Well, guess what? Complete those projects. There's no excuse now. Specifically, if you're saying, well, I'm not as busy as I was. Okay, great. What are those urgent projects that you've been putting off that you know you should be getting done? One of them, I'll tell you, organizing your database. That might be reorganizing it for some of you that, you know what? You have a great database, you've got your CRM, you're doing your thing, but you know what? I got to clean it up. Another great opportunity to clean up that database. What about your online communication strategy? We're all now doing more and more online. This has thrusted us to do more than ever online. Great. What is your strategy? What are you going to do? Take from this circumstance and say, you know what? I'm going to incorporate this online strategy for the future, okay, long term. It's a beautiful thing. What is that strategy?
And also, just because, you know, you guys, a lot of you need to have everybody in the VAC, and if you use the national newsletters, it takes into consideration all the events that are going on right now too. So I would definitely, a lot of people need to get their whole list, sending out those newsletters. Now is the perfect time to do that. And just want to add a little thing about their online.
Sure.
It's the perfect, just like, look at Mark is doing live videos. This is the perfect time to get used to yourself doing live videos. I mean, no one likes what they look like on video, but this is the time to get used to it. You will get used to it eventually. I had to, you can too.
Yeah, I like myself on video. I just need you to know
Well, I didn't
that
want to
up
mention
front.
that, but thanks for bringing it up.
Okay. Here's, and all kidding aside, I've seen some videos that some sales executives have done, and you know what I love about it? They're authentic, they're
Yeah.
real, you're not trying to sell anything, you're just presenting and giving actual quality facts for the consumer so they can make the best decisions for themselves and their families. How about this, Rick? What do you think about a client touch point strategy? So how are you going to interact? What is your touch point strategy? How many times are you going to reach out and talk to the consumer in different ways?
I was going to say virtually touch because you can't violate the CDC rule.
Correct.
Yeah, so how, exactly, you have a plan, and once again, it's the perfect time to implement that plan and get used to it too.
Yeah, and keep this in mind. So now if you're sitting there going, well, what are more good ideas about projects? Talk to other sales executives. Say, what are you working on right now? What do you see as your most urgent projects to work on? Get some ideas. This is the time that you can fit that in where you couldn't fit that in prior. Okay? So it is up to us individually to make sure we're as productive, okay, as we possibly can be, and that can come in different ways. Rick, anything else on that?
Absolutely, no, I like it, and it's just going to throw this in right here. It's the perfect time to get an exercise regimen into and get used to doing that because you have more time right now.
Yeah, they do.
And diet and all that good stuff.
All right, last but not least, and I think we have a couple questions, possibly, but one more thought process is, this will be the time, if you do it right, you will gain market share. You will pick up business because, listen, the facts are the facts. There will be realtors that don't make it through this scenario. They're not as focused, they're not as productive, and they're not doing the things that we need to do, okay, to make sure that buyers and sellers out there know that they're there. So in that group, okay, when that gets larger, those individuals need more people. So just again, have your conversations, reach out to your people, you're doing the right things, and I'm going to tell you this much, I feel very strongly, you're going to have more business than you know what to do with.
Absolutely, and you know, like we were talking, Mark and I, before this, Mark originally being from Chicago, me originally being from New England, you know, to me this time of year was perfectly normal because I kept my numbers forever as an agent. I knew in the first quarter I did 15% of my closings. In the second quarter it was almost 35. In the third quarter, it was almost 30, and then it was 20-something in the fourth quarter. So you're prospecting, you're having conversations, okay, reverse prospecting, and you're keeping good notes on people. You're filling your pipeline so when the gates eventually open up, you can all go through a run. Because even the top agents, most of them, I could name a few, but they go through 2 or 3 major runs a year that make up about 70% of their business. So right now you have a manufactured, but like Mark says, you don't have to stop, okay? There's still plenty of business out there for you to do. As a matter of fact, especially in Nevada and Arizona, other than meeting at the office and having open houses, not a lot has changed for you. California, a little tighter.
Yeah, different rules, different states. Okay, let's take some questions if we have some.
Do you think there will be...
Nicole Fetter, do you think there will be home value decreases in Phoenix and Vegas?
Okay, so let's talk about home value decreases. The question was, do we feel we'll have home decreases in price in Phoenix and Vegas? We can talk about that in all 3 markets or all 3 states that we deal in. Let's include California because it's the same answer. We are not seeing that in any way, shape, or form. Guys, look, here's the facts, and I said this earlier. We started with incredibly low inventory. Though inventory is increasing, it's not there for us to show because some is being restricted. We're not going to see prices going down, anything dramatically. Now keep in mind that different areas, about location and product and size and price range, that will matter. As always, we'll have some move up, some move down. But if you're depending, or if your buyers are thinking, well, wait a minute, we're going to see a dump in prices, I do not see that happening in any way, shape, or form.
I think the only opportunity there are for the you know, like Mark started this whole section here, episode 3, with the iBuyer. Now you have a lot of those properties that were under contract that the iBuyers have walked away. I mean, there's some opportunity in that 375 and lower area, but it's not going to affect value now.
That's a huge point, and I've already talked to some of you that as your client who had chosen to go with an iBuyer, they walked away, you got the listing, and it's already under contract. So I've had numerous conversations. That's a really big
because a lot of them already have their other property under contract, so they really need to sell the property. That's
Sure.
why they use an iBuyer.
Absolutely. Next question.
Rachel Michelle says, I feel on the fence marketing real estate right now in these challenging times. What are your recommendations so that I don't seem insensitive?
It's a great question. Question is about being insensitive, okay, based on our marketing. You know, truthfully, and again, there's two types of your marketing. First of all, you still want to keep your face out there, you want to keep your name out there, and I like the idea of marketing my success. So if something happens in a neighborhood, I think you need to tell them what's going on with it, just listed, just sold, whatever the case may be is. But truthfully, right now, I would save some dollars with marketing. That's my opinion. But you have to replace that with time and effort. And this goes back to reaching out to your clients. One, it says exactly you're not being insensitive, okay, in any way, shape, or form. And two, you're listening to their real issues. Now, there's another point to this, guys. Please understand this, is we get into a trap sometimes that we start thinking for other people. And we're trying to worry about what they may be thinking. Please don't fall into that trap. You know how you know what someone's thinking? Ask them. All you need to do is be authentic. Be yourself, okay? Talk to them, ask them how they're doing, how are things going. If they bring up something, of course, tell me more about that. And before you know it, you will be in a valid, authentic conversation with them. And, you know.
Well, especially when you start with the reverse prospecting, like, you know, tell me what's going on. The people, it's like when you call your sphere and you don't talk about business. They bring it in. How's it going?
Sure.
So when they do that, then you can transition to that area, get in rapport, and then you can do that. And just remember, right now, there are 3 types of people out there. There are people out there that, and we've got calls like this, hey, my home's on the market, you're not going to stop showing it, you're still going to sell it for me, right? You have those people, I mean, it's business as usual for about 1/3 of the people out there. 1/3 of them have hit the pause button. Well, let's see what happens. You know, interest rate, you know, so that'll, a few weeks, those people will probably be back at it. And then you have 1/3 that are just devastated and are very emotional about this. But you have some of your customers and clients that need you to be professional and do it right now. So as far as that, I would say, if you start, like Mark's talking about, with reverse prospecting, if you start with how are you doing, tell me where you are, and they bring in business, you're green light. But if you call them starting with, like some people are actually out there saying, oh my God, the market's going to tank, put your home on the market, get that. That fear selling is just not good.
No, and again, the more authentic you can be, call me up, you're calling me, call me up, ask me how I'm doing. Like Rick says, the conversation will go in the exact direction it needs to go. And by the way, if no real estate comes up whatsoever, and you just had a nice conversation, kill it. That's authentic, that's real. And when you make that call, I want you to expect that. Don't be expecting that, okay, I'm going to close for something here. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about having authentic conversations. The business will come. I need a leap of faith there. The business will be there. You just got to do the calls more often. If you're not reaching out to people, that's a problem.
Michelle Thomas asked, do you think the banks and investors are going to tighten up? I am seeing some charge points to lock them at a rate to keep DTIs low. Some are pulling back and tightening up. What are your thoughts?
Okay. I will tell you this, the lending business is extremely fluid right now, and it's a lot more complicated. And this came up in one of the other episodes, I believe the first episode. And I want to say this, good news. The government has stepped in to buy, mortgage-backed securities. That's powerful because gigantic. So it keeps the flow going. However, I want to be upfront. There are other issues. You know, they're buying it, but that doesn't mean they're backing it. And there's a big difference between that, because the rules in place that investors have to deal with when they buy a mortgage, okay, they're still on the hook for that. I should say the lenders are on the hook for that. So when they write a loan, okay, be it that whoever the buyer is, the lender's still on the hook for what the rules are. And those rules, I hope, will loosen up a little bit based on the current circumstances, and right now they haven't. So we'll see where that goes. But lending, you know what? Choosing your lender properly and choosing someone who knows what they're doing, okay, and a quality company, you need to do that now. It's not the time just to choose anyone and go with any promises, because you know what? You'll have problems.
You know what, too, and if you go to John Ingram's Facebook page from Axiom Mortgage, he does a great explanation of why the mortgage business is going through what it's going through right now.
And you know what? He's even mentioned to me about doing more webinars, giving you some background on understanding of what's going on in the mortgage business. So I guarantee you more to come.
Jennifer Wentz, on Monday's call with Rick and Dan, they mentioned FSBOs are a great target area. What are some tips for contacting and engaging with for sale by owner sellers, and how often to hopefully gain their trust to list their home?
Okay, well, obviously, okay, that's a great question, Jennifer, thank you. Obviously, anybody in your pipeline is where I would start. Like the exact example Dan was talking about on Monday was a FSBO he had been working with for a year, okay? And my little joke with FSBOs that have been working for a year is, you know, their pain directly correlates with the amount of money they have and how long they have to sell their property. This particular person went through all kinds of trials and errors, and eventually they were healed and Dan didn't even have to go over. She sent over the pictures. So, you know, I would say confidence and skill level is huge, but anybody in your pipeline that's a FSBO or expired is where I would start. The new ones, remember, they're expireds that have expired and they need to sell and they need you to call and be a professional. And then you have some people that'll need a little time too. So there's never been a better time, okay, for you to exercise your versatility. So you call, you ask what's happening, you go down the path as far as you can go, but I wouldn't go any further today.
Yeah, well, here's an authentic way that I can give you that I really feel you're not stepping on anyone's toes. If I were to reach out to a for sale by owner in an area that I knew, here's what I would say. So here's a script for you. I would call up and I'd say, you know what, I'd introduce myself, tell them who I'm with, okay? And then I would ask them this. I'd say, listen, based on inventories being very low today, and that properties are being restricted some of the properties are being restricted to show, if we had a buyer for your property, would you be willing to work with a realtor? All right, I know that you're marketing on your own. I'm just wondering, due to the lower inventories. If they say yes, great. If they say absolutely not, say, okay, thank you for your time. In normal situations, I would push that a little farther, but
right.
To Rick's point, I think he's 100% right on. I wouldn't push that, but I would ask, based on low inventories and of that inventory, people restricting the showings, I'm just asking, okay, if there is a buyer, would you consider working with a realtor? Now, if they say this, well, do you have a buyer? Say, well, I don't know, we haven't seen the home, okay? We'd love to be able to see the home if you're comfortable with that based on this timing. We can also go when you're not home, okay? If you want to leave a key, whatever. Work it out, whatever they're comfortable with, asking their permission.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the script you just went through is very similar to the one in the Book of Everything. The only difference I would say is, because in the Book of Everything it says, can I come over and preview your home? That's probably not a great idea today because that'll freak some people out. But most people have a complete set of pictures that they can send you over that you could sit down and go through. So I would make that one change today. And if they're expired, you already have all their pictures,
Yeah.
right?
No, that's a great idea. And last but not least, and this is not perfect, we're giving you ideas in the environment that we're in now, is you might say, you know what, why don't I do this? Why don't I touch base with you in the next 3 weeks, reconnect, see where we are based on everything going on today, and we can schedule a showing down the road, or I'm sorry, schedule a preview down the road.
Right.
So you're not doing it right away, but you've now opened up the conversation for the future, you laid the groundwork, you put it in your CRM that you're going to reach back out to them in 3 weeks, and you do it at that time, okay? Different ways.
I just gotta add one thing to that, and if it's vacant, you can obviously go over right away.
Cool.
Shireen El Husseini asked, I have buyers asking me if it's still a good time to buy or should I wait? What should my response be?
Okay. Do you want to take?
Sure. Well, honestly, if I'm a buyer right now and I'm not overly freaked out about getting out and looking at property, you have less competition right now. And you have people that expect you to still sell them a house today too, remember that. And you have some people that expect to wait, and some people, so I would say, once again, you have to use your versatility. If they still wanna buy a house today, I know what I'm doing, I'm selling them a house.
Yeah, and let me add this. Listen, I've always talked about beliefs are powerful. So what you believe makes the decisions in your life. And here's what I believe, so you know. We are going to get through this. The industry's going to get through this. It's going to get very, very busy for the future, okay? So keep that in mind, and in knowing that it's going to get busy in the future, then guess what? I can get my buyers in today to purchase it before it goes crazy again. Because I'm telling you this, interest rates are going to be low for a while from that standpoint. You're going to get a flood of buyers coming in, and your buyer is going to deal with other issues from the past that they're not having to deal with today. So to answer your question is, it is not only a phenomenal time to buy, but you have opportunities in this segment of time. Terrible situation, but it is what it is for that purchaser. Today, they don't have to deal with some of the challenges like numerous multiple offers and other challenges of so much competition.
And I would say in California especially, because they have, Arizona and Nevada, we have low inventory. California has almost no inventory.
Yeah, really tight. Okay, with that said, one more question and then we'll call it a day.
Hannah Wardy, in this current climate of social distancing and sheltering in place, any recommendations for new agents looking to expand their SOI?
Okay. Here's what I would recommend. If you do a great job in reverse prospecting and communicating authentically with the people you know, I think they will organically send you additional people. Our sphere, okay, will grow naturally if we do on a day-to-day basis what we're supposed to do. And that's reach out to people who already know, respect us, and love us. So do you notice that if you do that first step consistently, all right, like you were supposed to, it helps you in so many of these different areas. So please, don't skip that, and I believe strongly it will also help you grow your sphere.
Yeah, and I have two thoughts about that. And when you're talking to your sphere, like if you're like, I would be sending out the newsletters. They're incredibly good, the Berkshire Hathaway ones. And I would say, by the way, who else do you know that could use information like that? So you grow your sphere from your sphere once you're in rapport, because they'll give you their friends' emails and all kinds of stuff that you can add to your sphere. And the second thing is, a lot of you have really good farms. If you've been through your farm at least a few times, you can just count them like your sphere. Call them, check in, how's it going? Can I help you with any groceries? Do you need, and if you do that with, now your sphere grows by the farm. Now you have a sphere and a farm, and you're basically treating them the same way.
No, and I believe naturally, the conversation, and I'm hearing it from sales executives, naturally they open up and say, you know what, let me tell you, I'll tell you what one of my friends is going through. And it just naturally happens, so.
Yeah.
I think that's it for today.
Awesome. All right, guys, thank you very much. We'll be doing this again next Tuesday, 1:30 for episode 4. Look forward to seeing you guys. Keep
See you
rocking out
later.
there.
Bye-bye. Thank you.